What's up, guys? Today we're going to be making a box joint jig. Stay tuned. What's up, guys? Tracy Warner again, and today we're going to be making this box joint jig with this little insert. Now this insert we'll be able to take out and be able to change so that we can change out our groove pattern here. So let's get started. So now I'm cutting a piece of white oak to the size that I want my jig to be. And now I'm taking my miter gauge along with my white oak board, and we'll be taking this countersink bit and I'll be marking my holes where I want to put them. And here I'll be starting the holes, not going too deep, but I want to be able to, for the threads and the screws to bite. Now I'll put my miter gauge on. Now I'm not going to tighten these all the way, I'm just going to get them a little snug. We'll have to make an adjustment or two for the height once we get it on the table. Now with my miter gauge on the table, I can see it's a little snug, and that's why I didn't quite tighten up them screws all the way. So I'll get it to where it's nice and free and I'll tighten them screws up. Now this board I'm cutting will be our insert piece. And we'll cut it to length here. Now we need to make sure that it's all squared up with our blade. Now here I'm marking out where we're going to cut out for our insert. I'll mark it and then I'll make several passes with my table saw to cut out the meat of that board so our insert will fit inside. And then it's just a back and forth motion with my blade. Now with the bulk out, our insert will fit right in. So I screwed up on this, and I'm going to show you guys how, just in case you are building this. I put our insert on this side here. The problem with that is as I stack on my dado blades, they come this way. So essentially, as I stack on dado blades, this moves that way. And that's not what I want. I want my insert to be where I'm cutting. So the easiest way to do my little screw up is I'll simply flip this on the other side. We'll see my screw holes, but you know, what do you do? But that way, as my dado blades start stacking out and coming this way, it'll start taking out this guy, not, you know, my main body here. So what do you do? Now to fix my screw up, I now have to remark my holes. And the one hole is so close to my insert, and I'm probably just going to have to leave that one out. Now here, I'm just going to drill a pilot hole into our insert and countersink it. Now I'll tighten down our insert. And you notice the one side I left a little gap there. I'll explain that in a minute. First we need to remove our regular blade and switch out for dado blades. Now dado blades, you get to choose how thick of a cut you want it to make, and that will determine what size of fingers each one of your box joints will be. Now we're going to make a single pass here, and we'll cut a little finger the same size of what we just cut. Essentially, it will fit inside the hole that we just cut. Now here, with our screws on the back of our miter gauge, I'm just making sure that our finger is right where it needs to be. And I'll be marking this other finger that will be put into the insert, so we'll have to cut out a little section of that as well. Now here, I'm adjusting the height of my blade to the size of my finger so I can make that notch. And then we'll just simply glue that in. And with our jig basically done, I'm going to make sure that my screws on my miter gauge are right where they need to be before I tighten them down. And now we're going to take a test piece. We're going to make sure our blade is the height of the thickness of our test piece. Now to use our jig, you butt your piece up against that little notch, and we're going to take one little swipe. Now after that, you simply lift your piece over and slide where you just cut onto that notch and take another swipe. And you just simply repeat this process all the way until you're at the end of your board. And there you have it. One side of the finger joints is done. Now you just have to cut the other side doing the exact same process. And it should look something real similar to this. Now for our next piece here, as you start with that butted up and you move your way each time, you get to this end, you might actually get a little sliver out of it. You may not. To start your next piece, what you would actually do is butt it up against it, cut your last slot there, then remove this guy and start going through it all over again. Now this was actually my very first box joint that I ever made. I wanted to try this technique. I've never done it before, and it really wasn't that bad. They actually fit quite nicely, really. One thing to keep, there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is, I don't know if you guys can see that, but that is just a little flush. It's just a hair in, probably because I don't got it pushed it tight enough. If your fingers are in a little too much, you know, they're not flush here, that means you got your blade too low. If they're sticking out, that means you got them too high. Now what I've always heard was the way to have it was just a little above this. That way you can sand it down and it's a nice smooth finish. But basically you would take this, if this was your little box or whatever you're making, you throw glue all through in all these joints on both sides. And when you glue them up together like that, that is a whole lot of surface for that glue to attach to, and it makes an extremely strong bond. One thing I wanted to point out about this jig in specific, the reason we made this little insert here is so that at any time, if I want, you know, my fingers to be wider, narrower, you know, whatever I want, I would take this insert, unscrew it, remove this little insert here. I can make a couple of different of these, but this little guy here, you would just simply change the size of this to the size of the fingers that you want. You know, the wider this is, the wider these are going to be. And, you know, if this is thinner, these are thinner. And that's why I wanted to make mine this particular way, just because I can use this setup for all kinds of different sizes. I don't have just, you know, this board for this size and this one for that size. I got a universal kind of thing going here. So that's all for this time. I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, I'll be seeing you.